Hi, Marie. Thanks so much for talking to me about your coaching experience.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So, for those out there who aren't quite sure what coaching is about, what was your experience of coaching in kind of brief summary?
Um, my experience with coaching, it was sort of like a someone who's really wise walking you through a journey, kind of. Someone that was there to not necessarily tell you how to get from point A to B, but to guide you and to help you to kind of hone in on what you already know, but to use those things in an organized way to get to achieve your goal, so to speak. So um, ultimately, you have all the resources that you need, but I think life coaching helps you to identify those resources and show you what you presently have within yourself and externally to get to your end goal.
Hmm. Did you have like any expectations going into it, and how might they have changed?
Yeah, you kind of think that a life coach is someone that's going to tell you exactly what you should be doing, that they should be giving you instruction or almost serve as some similar to a therapist. So that's just not how it works. So I think that was my expectation initially, was that the life coach client relationship would be somewhat like you know, a friend almost advising, a very professional, experienced expert friend advising on what to do with, certain, challenges, barriers, roadblocks in your life that are keeping you from getting to where you want to get in life.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So, I'm sorry I didn't have all the answers just to give you. Wish I did.
Okay.
Be a lot easier if I could just go,
It
here's
would,
what you
right?
should do. Um, okay, so would you talk a little bit about like what it was like when you started, where you were at when you showed up, and what are some of the changes that you experienced, and where did you end up? What's the kind of before and after picture?
I think I would say in the beginning, without divulging information about my personal journey, is
Sure.
that I would describe my mind as more scattered, um, more that like I'm pulling randomly, grasping at straws, not really knowing what direction I wanted to go in, and then post life coaching, I feel more um, that my mind and what I'm actually doing in real life are more aligned, that I'm more in sync with myself, if that makes any sense. And that took a lot of soul searching. That took a lot of, obviously the sessions that we had were helpful, immensely helpful, because it gave me almost a direction to go, and the direction to move in. So that was helpful in guiding me towards my goals.
um, I remember you saying something, and I also will not say anything personal that you don't bring up, but
Hmm.
just the thing about like old Marie, new Marie,
Yeah.
like what were like some of the things that you kind of refer to yourself as old Marie versus what's new Marie? Is there anything that you'd be willing to share in that regard?
Yeah. I think old Marie was um she didn't focus as much on her needs and her desires, and she wasn't necessarily in tune with what those things were that she wanted. Okay. So after discussing that at length and really taking a deep dive into what is it that I exactly want, I then started to realize what it was that I needed, and what my desires were as far as my future. So that was one of the big differences, and I focused and placed more energy on others than myself. And that was the root of a lot of things. That was the root of a lot of my unhappiness. Is that I wasn't necessarily pouring into myself, if you will. I was pouring into other people. Okay. And I was neglecting myself. So I think that was a huge difference between what I would characterize as the old Marie versus the new Marie.
Hmm.
And part of the whole life coaching process, that's refocusing on yourself and delving into deep down into the recesses of your spirit, your who you are, you know what I mean? And to really pull out your real self, and challenge that person to, utilize a life coaching service to really get an idea of what it is that you truly want out of life, and then just to kind of draw in all those things that you need to get that done.
I'm curious about the challenging point. How would you describe the extent to which you felt challenged or pushed or held accountable, maybe, for some of the things that you wanted to do?
So the challenging part. So the way life coaching works is, I guess you present the topic that you'd like to discuss, and the challenges associated with that topic. And then, we discuss those things, but you ask more and more questions about why I feel the way I do about that particular topic or that challenge. What led me to take certain actions versus others. And that line of questioning almost helps me see maybe how I could have done things differently, or what it was about my line of thinking that led me to that less than that led me to that endpoint that I wasn't happy about. So how do I change that narrative? How do I change what I've been doing? It's by questioning myself and really understanding, the reason why I do things, and maybe, make some adjustments to get to the goal.
Mm-hmm. So if you, how would you explain to somebody the difference between trying to do this kind of stuff on your own, just like asking yourself questions or trying to make changes on your own, versus doing that with a coach?
Doing it on your own, I think oftentimes we lack self-awareness. I think in general, it's hard to kind of really, it's kind of hard to mirror yourself. So a life coach will sort of throw back at what you've been, whatever it is that you've been doing at you. Like they'll question what you're doing. They'll analyze what you're doing or help you analyze it. So sometimes we're blind to our own actions. And when you're using a life coach, I think that person will help you to have some transparency towards yourself. Like you will start to see patterns and behaviors that you weren't necessarily aware of before. And also you'll be more aware of how you're thinking. And that's, for me, that was the biggest bonus. With using the life coaching, was that I was more aware of just my thought process when I actually carried out certain, actions or tasks.
In terms of taking actions and being able to follow through with those actions, I know that I'm always, bothering you and annoying you about, what were the things that you decided to do, what worked and what didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just curious to what extent you felt like the follow through in your actions improved, if anything.
The follow through was pretty on point. I mean, one example is, this was helpful, was our discussion about the things that we can and cannot control. And I think over time, I just started to adopt this thinking process where when I was confronted with a situation, I would start to think to myself, what is it about this situation that you can and cannot control? Because sometimes, we can get caught up in those things that we can't control and spend so much energy and time on that. And you get further with things that you can control. So that was something that I carried with me and I followed through. So I actually would go from, whether it be, the gym, right? My interactions with family members or friends, I would carry that same thought process with me, and that's how I would make decisions. I would use that to make decisions about what I was and was not going to use my time on.
Is there anything that you'd be comfortable sharing as a kind of real life tangible change or anything like that that you can associate with having done coaching?
I mean, I'll share like the whole my dating journey. I think, we talked about expectations at length, and it's not like my normal process to evaluate what my expectations are about anything. That was foreign to me, and I've never discussed that with anyone. So I thought that was important in terms of like my progress in this whole process. So as far as like my communication with, you know, with the guys that I would be dating, I would definitely, and I would say now I'm more likely to say, hey, what are my expectations out of this situation? And I will have that process and I will think about it before I actually engage with someone when I'm dating them. And that's helpful in terms of managing my emotions and just how I feel about the dating process in general. I think before I was probably anticipating, expecting things, and when they did not happen, that could be a little detrimental. It's upsetting sometimes. So I think, again, I had to really challenge myself to understand what it was that I was expecting.
Cool. Can I ask you one more thing, which is about the investment? I mean, coaching isn't free; you got to pay for it. So if somebody were asking, oh, well, is it worth the money? Like, got to spend a bunch of money on coaching. What might you? How would you frame that?
Right. So yes, it is an investment. But the best investment you could possibly make is in yourself. And I'll be frank, I did have my reservations initially, but it's almost like brain exercise. Okay, so you're not going to get that anywhere, and it is worth the money. And you almost you're curating the person that you want to be, and you can only do that through a process like life coaching. So we all have a vision of who we want to be and where we want to go, and my belief is that if you haven't achieved that in the time span that you expected to achieve it, then this is a process that can definitely help you on your way. Especially if you're unable to identify what it is that's actually stopping you from getting to that point, or that end goal. So I think that's the most important takeaway if you're having reservations about signing on to a life coaching service. For me, it was helpful, and it was like, in a sense, groundbreaking for me, because I think differently now. So that would be, to me, the selling point for me. That was a selling point. And towards the middle of it, you kind of see gradually the change happens, not overnight, but it takes time, but you do see it. You do see the change. And it's something that you have to work out. You have to work on consistently and be intentional about it as well. Because it is an investment. So like when we're not talking, then I have to do the work outside of that. So.
Yeah, for sure.
You should, because you're paying for it. So you
That's part of it,
homework, right? Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, and I know it's not the easiest thing, and it takes a certain amount of effort to get those results. But I'm really thrilled to hear that that you feel like that you did get those results. So that's amazing, and it was such a pleasure to work with you. I mean,
I know.
I'm so glad I had the honor. Well, Marie, thanks so much again, and hope to talk to you soon.
Same. Thank you.